a whole line of cops and people come through with they blue shirts on, cop supporters, mostly Caucasian except for the clergy. They were black. With their phones out filming the protesters almost as if they were like pandas in a zoo.
Now allow me to reintroduce myself.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another Making Your Business Daily with Big Rel, aka Terrell, aka, you know, all the AKAs, BKAs, all that good stuff, and Shayla.
What? Wow. Are you trying to play me?
No. I just have all the cool names, and you have Shayla. Your name is so great that it doesn't need any AKAs or BKAs or any other also known as or better known as. Because
That's
your
right.
name was so great on the day you were born, 12/25.
Don't even.
Blah, 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 blah.
Don't even finish that.
You know, the second most important person born on that day. Anyway, so lead us in, Shay.
We want to thank you guys for joining us for another podcast. We always appreciate you spending your most precious asset with us, which is your time. And one of the things we wanted to do, since we are Black business owners, small startup, small media production company startup, we wanted to continue to highlight Black-owned businesses. That we want continue to highlight Black-owned businesses, because one of the things that we wanted to do as Black business owners is highlight fellow Black business owners and companies, because one of the reasons that we are unable to create generational wealth in our community is because our businesses, our startups, our companies do not unfortunately receive the resources and the support that our counterparts of other racial backgrounds do. So we want to try to highlight as many companies as we can so that you all can support them. The blessing is a lot of the ones that I am definitely lifting today have an online component. So you will be able to go online and shop with them if they are not in your area.
All right. Well, before we get into that, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions.
Okay.
I wanted to, well, first, you know, you've been filming the protests. Have you come up with a name for your documentary that you're filming about the protests for the Black Lives Matter movement that is currently happening?
It's something to do with voices.
Okay.
I just have not exactly, I haven't even come up with a working title yet, which is, I always come up with a working title for those who have seen scripts and outlines of mine in the past. I always have a working title. But for some reason, I don't have one. I do envision it having a lot of quotes and cards that kind of lead us in and out of the footage.
Okay.
But it's kind of, I would like to say that it's going to be almost, highlight reel might not be the best way to describe it.
Okay.
But it will be sort of like a highlight reel of what we're seeing. Because this is a positive documentary. There will be some moments of course, I guess you could say frustration, anger, because the anger is justified in the fact that we are still fighting for civil rights in this country. And Lord knows, after some of the videos I've been seeing online this past week with little kids giving us the finger and calling us the N-word, we got a long ways to go. So the passion, I should say, it's passion that you'll see that may come across, I would say, as anger, but justifiably so, because you just get so tired of having the same conversation, so tired of fighting the same fight. But like Frederick Douglass said, without struggle, there is no change, right?
Yep.
There's no progression. So
Paraphrase, you know.
I definitely paraphrase. Like, it's one of those quotes, you know.
I saw it the other day too.
There's no progress without struggle.
I think that's it.
Like the Frederick Douglass quote says, there is no progress without struggle. I'm probably paraphrasing that, but yes, we saw that not too long ago. But it is one of my favorite quotes from him. So it definitely, we have a long ways to go, but prayerfully we will carry on the torch of the late, great John Lewis, who we unfortunately lost recently. And of course, C.T. Vivian. So we want to uplift those two civil rights leaders and ask that you keep their families in prayers. These are men that dedicated their lives to the rights of their people, so that their people had a right to vote, their people had a right to sit at counters, their people had a right to ride a bus, their people had a right to do everything that we take for granted on a daily basis. I definitely don't take it for granted here in New York, because people can be kind of rude. And there's a lot of entitlement in New York. But I definitely think about the fact that, especially when it comes to voting, I come from a very, very strong voting family. My father is and my mother are very big on voting. And it is definitely something that I talk a great deal about, because that's where change starts. You hold your elected officials accountable, no matter what party you're voting for, what candidate you're voting for. You hold them accountable for the things you want to see in their community. But if we're going to start to break down the walls of racism that unfortunately are built around every institution in this country, we have to do it with candidates, whether they are conservative, progressive, middle of the road. They still, if they want the America that they claim that they want, the America that the Constitution upholds, and that means there is no separate but equal. There is an America that everyone can enjoy the fruits of their labor and can enjoy an equal, peaceful life, if that is what people truly want to see. So, and those who have been complacent and happy with the fact, who have enjoyed the privileges that come with a broken system, the time for complacency has to end too. Because if you are saying that you're over the unrest in your streets, seeing people fight for rights, seeing military being sent in without provocation to cities to stop peaceful protesters, if this is not what you want to see, then you have to question, what have I done?
Yeah.
And that's something like that John Lewis once said, if not us, then who? If not now, when? And I just think that's such a prolific quote, because you can't continue to point the fingers and say, well, these people have to do it. You have to be a part of that too.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for that. That was very beautifully said. I mean, I know you wasn't even prepared. Impromptu speech by Shayla Hebron. She has a future as a civil rights activist.
Oh my gosh, no.
So,
I wish.
Al Sharpton, be careful.
Oh, no.
She's nipping at your heels. But speaking of protests, let's not overshadow one particular protest that you did go to that I would like for you to share with the people now.
So all the footage is in slow-mo, so sorry, everybody. It was hot.
Well, let me set the scene.
Okay, sorry.
You jumping ahead of, let me set the scene. So it came across the hotline, the tip hotline, the Shayla tip hotline of like, SOS, there's a protest going on. And the protest was actually for the police officers of New York City. NYPD protest, pro-cop protests. And Shayla was like, I cannot miss this opportunity to show the other side of the coin. And she zip, got ready, got her camera out, pop, pop, boom. She jumped out there, and then take it away, Shayla. What happened when you went to the pro NYPD protests? Because I love that you're an unbiased journalist.
I mean, I needed to see it for myself. There's been multiple ones around the city, and even Terrell, who's grown up here in New York, was like, wow, I mean, they're really doing this. But the areas that they had taken place in before, you weren't surprised, because you knew the areas were predominantly Caucasian, so they really didn't have a large black communities in those areas where there were marches, pro-NYPD marches before. This one, however, was a clergy in NYPD march. So there was black clergy that was a part of this march, lifting the NYPD. So for those of you that aren't familiar with the movement here in New York City, their City Hall's been occupied now since June 24th, I want to believe. And it started after a very passionate march that young people decided to occupy. Just like Wall Street, they occupied City Hall primarily for the vote that was taking place on June 30th. That would define where the funding would be going for the city for the upcoming fiscal year, 2020 to 2020, or yes, 2020, 2021. So basically, at that point in time, New York City police had been receiving $6 billion in their budget, and they were asking for $1 billion to be removed from the budget. I personally think they don't need $5 billion, but hey, you know what? What do I now? I don't know what resources they using it for.
A lot of bullets.
Yeah.
A lot of bullets.
So, and riot gear.
They need a lot of bullets and riot gear and batons.
All I know is that Occupy was a part of the counter protest that was going to basically face off with the pro NYPD and clergy movement. Now, there was a huge setup in front of City Hall, and if any of you are familiar with New York City Hall, you know it's very gated, heavily policed. But
that's a real gated community right there.
Real gated community. But to see chairs set up and a big float would support the NYPD on the side, and a podium for the preachers to preach at, and all these black people setting up chairs with their pro NYPD shirts on. The shirt still said "Stop Police Brutality," so I was so confused. Like, I didn't know what message they was trying to send. So basically, what had happened? Two suited detectives, sergeants, which wear the white shirts. Thank y'all for this shows you how informed I am about law enforcement. I'm like, I don't know who these people are. And then police in riot gear, helmets, batons drawn, and bike cops and motorcycle police. So many
had
of you,
it all covered.
They had it all covered. So for those of you who aren't familiar with New York City, bike cops wear yellow shirts, typically cycling pants or cycling shorts, and the helmets. Motorcycles, of course, they have motorcycle helmets and full-on motorcycle. Yeah. So they had all of that because what they had done was basically redirected or lied about the direction that the pro-police and clergy march was coming from Brooklyn, across the Brooklyn Bridge. So the counter-protesters, there was like two groups of counter-protesters, one already at Occupy, one that had crossed in Brooklyn. Some went on the bridge to try to meet them. This was the second wave that had come through to try to meet them and cut them off at the pass from coming over and basically holding their huge rally of pro NYPD. They should still be able to knock people upside the head style rally. Mm-hmm. Next thing you know, the detectives, sergeants open these barricades that block anybody from getting on the bridge, including media, because there was a ton of us out there, including local news stations with their shooters, with their guides, which help them walk backwards. So they had guides and everything out there. Sound, walking them back. They couldn't even get on the bridge.
Damn.
The reason that they couldn't get on the bridge is the cops didn't want them to see, the reason they couldn't get on the bridge is the cops didn't want them to see them arrest all of these young people with the Black Lives Matter movement unjustly. So next thing you know, correction bus comes, it's on the bridge, but there's a partition that separates both sides of the bridge. So they knew they couldn't throw kids over the partition into the correction bus because you would do some type of injury by doing so. So they basically decided to bring the corrections bus down, push the media back because they really didn't want us to be able to film what was happening. Yeah. But we were able to keep our cameras on the young people they had in handcuffs that they were putting on this correction bus. Don't know where they're going, don't know where they're holding them. They're young people. Because of the pandemic, a lot of people are out of work. Yep. Possibly these young people too. So how they're getting out of jail, who knows? They know this, that they can hold them for a certain amount of time and put them in the system. The blessing was they were allies with them, who of course are of different backgrounds, white, Asian, who were also arrested. Yeah. But at the same time, I saw no justification as to why they were being arrested. Wow. And they were not giving any explanation to the fellow protesters that were asking why. It was probably one of the most venomous scenes I've seen up close in a long time because New York really does parade itself as a liberal city. But then you see the things that happen, like at Amy Cooper in Central Park, that knew she could call the police on Christian Cooper and identify him as African American as code for her feeling threatened because of he was an African American male. Then you look at these situations where these kids are speaking out about the very things that were happening to them. being arrested for not committing a crime, for not being violent.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, on a whole nother side of the bridge, mind you, all the press and those of us that were still near all of the protesters, because we weren't taking our cameras off. In case they did knock one of these kids upside the head, I wanted to make sure my camera was on all of this, even though I had a lot of overheating issues that day, but we will get into that. The whole other side was an almost all unmasked march. They had no mask on. Yes, our numbers are lower in New York City, but the virus is spiking in 40 states in this country. So, and you can drive everywhere except, Hawaii?
Yeah.
In the United States. So you can get COVID. People can come into New York with their COVID. So unmasked people in blue shirts supporting the cops. Oh, no, sorry. Before they came, then the Blue Angels or Blue Knights, who were the motorcycle cops, I didn't even know about them, that wear a motorcycle cop leather vest.
I didn't know about them either.
And they come, they do their fists, and
Are they actually cops or are they just?
I don't know if they had a lot of pro cop patches on. So and their bikes look very
Cop-like?
NYPD decked out. So I would hope, because I think they're almost like other branches of military, which is very interesting because cops aren't military, but whatever, that have those like specific like kind of parade, the people that parade through, like they might even be retired cops.
Got you. Okay.
Because they did look a little older.
Okay, yeah. They probably be at those like rallies and stuff like that. Like when not protests, but like they,
like union rallies.
Yeah. They probably go out to those, and probably retired cops that go to like if a fallen cop. If a cop is murdered or whatever, they'll go to the funeral probably. They're probably the trumpet plays and stuff like that.
Right, exactly. I mean, it was a piece of work. I was like, what is that? So then of course, the barricade of clergy.
Not the trumpet, the...
Oh, the dun, dun, dun. That is the trumpet, right?
What's the name? The not banjo.
I know what you're talking about.
The bagpipes.
Yes, the bagpipes.
There you go. They do play those.
I thought you were talking about taps, but that's soldiers.
There you go. See? Yeah, see?
So, yes, you're right.
Yeah, I know I'm right.
So then a whole line of cops and people come through with they blue shirts on, cop supporters, mostly Caucasian except for the clergy. They were black. With their phones out filming the protesters almost as if they were like pandas in a zoo. I was so physically repulsed.
Yeah.
They ain't had no mask on. Like, I still can't get over how they had no mask on. Like, and the thing that I think was the hardest for me, because I've seen so many signs that have been displayed in different montages on television and the news have done, and media packages highlighting the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement, or as I should say, the ongoing works of the Black Lives Matter movement, because most of those who've been active have been active for years. But you've seen signs that you've messed with the wrong generation. Oh. I saw people in that crowd, and they were talking about primarily Gen Z, because Gen Z and I guess the end of the millennial generation are leading a lot of this movement.
Gangsters.
I saw, very brave young people. I saw young Caucasian kids that were younger than them with the pro-police, with their phones, filming the Black Lives Matter protesters. Yeah. I was like, and therein lies the problem. The hate is continuously passed on. Yeah. I started to say, you know what, I'm not going to go to the front where the protest is going to try to get any of this, but some of the kids from the Black Lives Matter movement went to the front, so I decided to go along and see what it was, because there's only so much that can be done because the press was still there. We were all still there filming. They literally barricaded off the whole area so the Black Lives Matter protesters couldn't get anywhere near the event. Now, mind you, they'll let them come to an event, spit on them with no mask, throw stuff at them. I've seen it in other states. I haven't seen it in New York yet, because I do think that's happening.
Not yet.
But it was heartbreaking to watch. And on top of it, I mean, I remember hearing the kids saying, particularly the cops of color too, black cops, you chose to be blue.
Yeah.
You can go home and take that uniform on. And saying it to all the cops, but particularly cops that look like them, I can't take my skin color off when I go home. But to see that there's another generation, because I saw, once I got to the front, I really got to see how young some of these kids were. Some of them had to be preteen, early teenagers. I don't think anybody there was older than 16, 17.
Yeah.
With their parents, of course. Filming the protesters almost like, I'm not lying, it was like they were watching pandas at a zoo. My heart was just so heavy. I really didn't go out right after, I think for like at least 2 days.
Yeah.
And then John Lewis passed, and I physically cried as soon as I was reading more about him dying, because there's so much more work that has to be done. It's like, just New York cloaks itself as a liberal democratic city. And I literally watched. It looked like what we're seeing in Portland right now. It looked like what we're seeing everywhere. It looked like when they were looting and rioting early on, when it wasn't even the Black Lives Matter protesters. That's what it looked like. And it was just, I felt like, God, if I could get out of New York tomorrow, I would. I couldn't believe it. And the fact that the governor and the mayor, Andrew Cuomo and Bill de Blasio, wrapped themselves around the NYPD. I'm glad y'all terms is almost up, because don't nobody want y'all. I'm gonna tell you, and I don't vote in New York. I vote in Maryland, but I've almost considered switching to vote for three different people I don't want to deal with no more. The mayor, the governor, and if the Democrats do gain control of the Senate, the last thing I'd want is Chuck Schumer in charge, because I feel like he sold his soul to the devil a long time ago too. But it was so disheartening to watch. And I know you grew up here, and you've told me for so long, especially when you see the kids face to face with the cops at some of the marches and protests you've gone to me with, you're like, man, they bold. And I'm like, it's different now. You know, these kids know that they know that they have rights, and they stand up for their rights. And I think the George Floyd thing set this whole thing off, and you're like, oh, okay. And so when I come home and I'm so flustered and agitated, for you, it's just like a Tuesday. You're like,
well, yeah. I mean, hearing the story about those kids getting locked up on the bridge, I was just like, it was bound to happen, because every time I go out to you with at the protest, like you were talking about, and then you hear them telling SMD and all that, F12 and all this, and I'm like, this is still their town. So, and
they've said that you have a commissioner who says that these streets are their streets. Mind you, we pay their salary.
Yeah.
So how dare you say that these are your streets, Commissioner Shay? That's another one. I ain't feeling too tough.
The thing is, I'll compare it to this, like on some street stuff. Like, if I'm a blood, right, and I'm not gonna go into Crip territory talking about like I'm blood. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna be out here. I'm not gonna be out here while I'm wearing this blue shirt. But I'm not gonna be out here talking about like, oh, I'm blood, so y'all know what it is, right in the middle of like a, you know what I mean, where the Rolling 60s are or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you're just not gonna do that.
You're not gonna be a Pyru talking about, let me go kick it with the Rolling 60s, kick it.
You know what I mean? Yeah, like, and then taunt them. Now, put that in what I'm in the analogy of New York. It's basically, you're a rival gang, Black Lives Matter movement. You're like, fighting for your rights in New York, NYPD's territory. Talking about like, what y'all going to do? And
I will say one thing. These kids got some kahunas. Like, they are like, what you gonna do? And I'm like, oof. Like, and NYPD, I didn't even come up in the era of hands on the wheel.
Yeah.
I grew up in a privileged area of Maryland, and my parents had to talk to my brother about, because they own luxury vehicles. Like, they may pull you over. Like, why are you in this neighborhood with this car?
Yeah, it's fine. The window's closed.
in this neighborhood with this car and think that he was actually possibly doing something illegal. But they didn't have that talk with me.
Yeah.
And black women are getting killed out here too.
Yeah.
And black trans women are getting killed disproportionately too. But for me, it was kind of like one of those things. I got pulled over by the cops. I was like, I'm sorry. I would actually question why I'm getting pulled over. I would see, and for me, I knew I was speeding. I have a very, heavy foot, and I speed quite a bit. But that's besides the point. There would be people flying. I know going a lot faster than me. And I'm like, why aren't you pulling them over? Look how fast they're going. You clocked me at that. I'm sure they were going at 105. Like, I was just quick to point out. And this was in Los Angeles and Maryland. Now, Maryland's history depends on what area you're in. But, there's tons of bad apples in all of the precincts. But LAPD, when I was mouthing off to LAPD, they got a history of clocking folks upside the head.
Yep.
So let's just say that I was very sheltered from what a lot of people had to grow up in, particularly in inner cities. So I used to be that kid that was like, oh, what you gonna do, cop? Like, what? So I can kind of understand that. I probably, at this point, just seeing knees on necks, illegal chokeholds, the way they just using a baton like it's a freaking, I don't know, a fan. I mean, it's like,
That's a good one.
I am definitely a lot more resistant in my older years. I don't even know if I want to say it that way, but my more mature years than I was in my youth. So I was fearless in my youth in terms of, I think we all are a bit invincible, but I don't think, it is interesting how they beat down a community to where you don't, like a George Floyd wasn't going to resist cops at that age, but maybe he was more like, look, when he was a young high school standout, or athlete standout. But I don't know. I mean, I will say that it definitely, I'm glad that I was able to be there.
Yeah.
I unfortunately filmed most of it in slow-mo with no audio. The audio, to me, was the best part because you could hear black cops tell the Black Lives Matter movement that they didn't represent them, which was chilling and gut-wrenching and stomach-turning all at the same time. Hearing what a lot of the kids said was profound, prolific, all at the same time. And they got a system. I mean, they got people that can tell you where people are, like where cops are. Systems that we've had for years, but I used to know people that had it for traffic reasons. All right, so the cops is over in this area.
No, I know what you mean. I forgot
okay.
what those devices are called, but you can pick up their radio.
Very impressed. I'm not going to give away too much because I want these kids to keep fighting
keep on
a good
No
fight.
snitching.
But
you from Baltimore, no snitching.
I know, no snitching. But I just have to say to all of the young people in New York, keep fighting. Please vote.
Yeah, that's the most important, man.
I don't care if you writing yourself down. Just don't. Please vote. Yeah. Because unfortunately, a lot of the reasons that police feel, now the unions need to be addressed in and of themselves, and Fraternal Order of the Police, which I just think is the Klan. I feel like they need to be addressed, but what we need to really look at is structurally, it's the institutions. And the fact that there is such thing as, immunity, I forgot what it's called, but it's something immunity, where they have, they're trying to write this into law where they don't have basically a blanketed blanketed coverage where they could take somebody out and they don't have to face charges. Any other job you could, what is it?
Blue immunity or something?
It's more, it's a qualified immunity, I think.
Oh, okay.
So hopefully they will get rid of qualified immunity where they get to just go out and kill people on the streets. And that will be written into law. But the biggest problem is
qualifying immunity or something like that. Hold on, I'll tell you. Qualified immunity.
The policies like qualified immunity, these types of things are built into institutions. And it's just like, I know a lot of people were saying, even if you don't believe the current administration is racist, the policies are racist.
Yeah.
So you have to think in terms of who you want to represent you and how we can help to really form an anti-racist society. Because there's bigotry in every group that needs to be broken down.
Yeah.
But the socioeconomic crushing of racism, because that's really what a lot of racism is built on, is socioeconomic power, is what needs to start being chipped away at.
Yeah.
I'd like it to be clunked off with a chunk, but we'll start with some chips.
Every step counts, right? All right. Well, thank you for sharing that your experience with
The counter protest.
The counter protest.
I will have to say, I really thoroughly was. When you're in the midst of the action, though, it's like.
Well, can you quickly? Let's just go quickly because I'm excited to talk about some new businesses today. Have you seen any change? And this is a business podcast. We do talk about the business of being black, so to speak. And have you felt any dramatic shifts after the blackout? With the push for black businesses and all this money that is supposed to be being dumped into organizations to help black businesses and black communities. Do you see any trends or anything out there that has caught your eye, or they're not, lack thereof?
I think that still goes back to who has the power. I think the thing about it is that for every Amazon, there needs to be a counter one. I think for every...
Black Amazon?
Yeah, Black Amazon.
Blamazon.
Yeah.
I'm starting it right there. Blamazon.
I do. I feel like I was reading today. I didn't get a chance to fully read the article, but eBay has been acquired. So I do want...
eBay?
eBay.
eBay. Bleeblay.
But I guarantee you that the people that bought eBay do not look like us. And
That's crazy. eBay was bought. I mean, I know this is off topic, but how much? Do you know how much it was bought?
No, I gotta look.
Because that's like $1 billion company
I know
on
they
its
said
own.
that it was one of the oldest internet companies just got purchased.
Yeah, man. I mean, that had to be valued at something crazy. Like they had to basically. eBay was so big for whomever owns it. I don't know the name of the guy, but the amount of money they had to buy it from had to be absurd.
No, I think that's why it was it's like one of those understated things. I think that because the country is on fire, no one's paying attention. It's like, because I said, let's see. I think it's going to be close to a $9.2 billion deal, I think.
I was thinking 10. I thought it was going to be double digit. Okay, so...
Oh, but it's their listings. It's their ad listings they're selling off. Their classified ad listings.
So it's not even like the actual business. Okay. Because, they're a publicly traded business, so the board would have to vote.
Yeah, I was thinking. I thought that was weird.
Okay, so,
so Adventa acquired their classified business unit.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, $10 billion is nothing to sneeze at. I mean,
and they're Norwegian.
And
based company.
And I mean, finish giving you our thoughts. And actually, I want to correlate this to a personal matter for you in a second. So yeah, finish giving us your thoughts when you get a chance.
I've seen friends discuss items they've personally bought.
Yeah.
On Instagram, but then we're just talking about a group of people that I know.
Yeah.
I haven't. The thing about it is I haven't actually seen press.
Oh yeah.
About how the blackout's doing. So I actually do want to look into that more.
Okay.
To see if there were any number shifts. The problem is that you also have. I know that black-owned products we've looked into, some of them are being sold by white retailers, or I should say white-owned retailers. So that's another thing too. It's kind of like I know that that's large to be able to get your products, particularly if you have a manufacturer. Mm-hmm. If you're selling beauty products, if you're selling skin products, skincare products. It's definitely good to have your products in a massive retailer like a Target, like a Walmart. Urban Outfitters is another one that buys a lot of independent brands. I know that's Anthropology is another one. I know that's really big to be able to be purchased by companies like that, but at the same time, doing collaborations with black-owned stores and YouTube definitely work to promote one another and work together with doing branding and different types of content for one another, I think then you build that way.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest problem is that we haven't still done that.
Yeah.
If you could say, we haven't still done that enough, I should say.
Gotcha.
There are companies that are doing it, but there's just not enough doing it.
Gotcha.
And I think that's where, yes, people probably did buy black on the blackout if they bought anything.
Yeah.
But I still knew people that were like, I got to go to Target today. Or, I'm sorry, I'm out of toilet paper. I got to go to CVS. So I think until we get to that point where we definitely corner some of the markets of things where we are a necessity. And I think that's the biggest problem. Our brands are still not yet a necessity.
Yeah.
Where other ones are. And it's definitely, that's another part of systemic racism. Unfortunately, we start a business, it's a very small percentage of us that get into the necessity, where our businesses get into being a necessity.
Yes.
And something that people say, you know what, I need that.
Yeah.
So prayerfully we're getting there,
Yeah.
but I look at all the brands that did support the Black Lives Matter movement and give to organizations. Okay, so they support it, but why not work a collaboration with a Black-owned company that does something that complements what you do?
Yeah.
So say that if you're a skincare brand or, for a white-owned skincare, or I should say a counterpart of another racial group owned skincare line, why can't you do something with a Black clothier?
Yeah.
Or do something with a Black hair care brand.
Well, shout out to Sephora because they said they're going to dedicate 15% of their company or shelves to Black-owned businesses. So that is an example of what you mean, right? So I agree. I definitely think there's a lot more that could be done other than throwing money because how you trace
And at organizations where you don't necessarily always know
Yeah.
where all of the funding is
gonna
going.
say that. Yep. Took the words out of my mouth. So real quick, I just wanted to, touch it. And this is just for a good laugh. When you talked about everything that's going on behind the scenes, with eBay and they making these multi-billion-dollar deals, and literally in the midst of a Black Lives Matter movement, and white people making money right in front of your face, you know how that feels.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yes. A little funny anecdote. Let's not, because we have some good stuff to talk about today. So
actually, I'm on probably way too many subcommittees as a part of the Producers Guild of America, which is our version. It's the producers version of Directors Guild, SAG-AFTRA, which is the Screen Actors Guild. So that's our version of it for producers, and those are producers, of course, for series and films. And I recently joined their press and writing team, where we'll be able to write and contribute to the Produced by magazine and the newsletter and other publications within the Producers Guild. While on a phone call with members of the press and writing team, those who were able to stay gainfully employed through most of the shutdown, of course, did so while they were either affiliated with online media components such as people like Fox, Refinery 29, different types of, I guess you could say, lifestyle platforms like that, and informative platforms, and digital, anything digital.
Gotcha.
But also esports, which ESPN has been trying to figure out a way to monetize it for years. Finally found a way, of course, when there were no sports being played and everybody was indoors.
Yeah.
Basically watching the content that they could consume on streaming platforms. ESPN found an alternative by taking what used to be 10 cameras for a sporting event and now making it 137 cameras for esporting events. So gamers everywhere could be highlighted in what they do with esports competitions.
Gotcha.
And one of the young ladies who is also involved with the press and writing team stayed employed by working with esports and Apex and doing live events with them. And one of the co-chairs of the committee actually has come up with a volumetrics, which, if you don't know what that is, it's one of the futures of entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
And created, it basically has a way that will be profitable in the future for esports. He's basically still perfecting it. But in front of myself and his co-chair, who had just spoke of ageism prior to how the business is changing as well, and how ageism is another big problem we have in the business, spoke to the other young lady who is on the same lines of tech within entertainment that he is, and said, we need to talk offline about the product that I have and see if that would be something that they will be interested in, because I'm telling you, it's going to change the face of the way those programs work.
Yeah. And nothing's malicious.
Nothing, and it wasn't even malicious. It's just that is what these protests are about.
Yeah.
We are still writing letters for Hollywood to want the current Black lives that are in Hollywood to matter. Forget the ones that have the filmmakers that haven't been born yet, the series creators that haven't even finished high school yet, graduated from college yet, and the same with feature filmmakers, or those who are just trying as an independent creator to make content. Our counterparts of other races are light years ahead of what the next step is. And we haven't even fully grasped everything we could on the platforms that are currently thriving. I've always said, and I'm kind of like this, and it's one of the reasons that I still to this day haven't filmed one script, said to Terrell that I didn't want to be traditional in the sense of filming a short film or a web series or a series and then taking it to a festival. Not that I have anything against that, but I just, for me, I've always been impressed with people who've been on the cutting edge of something.
Yeah.
And I do feel like there's a lot of people quietly in Hollywood that are starting to do that. And some actually look like us.
Yeah, there are a couple.
And not as many as we would like. Yeah. But that is, the reason that we kept talking about, and one of the things that I think a lot of people liked engaging with us on LinkedIn about adapting to change, and the reason that it was so important for me discussing really understanding online and knowing your social platforms and knowing how to engage with an audience that isn't just your audience of people you went to college with or people you knew from your neighborhood. What social platforms have done is they've made the world this big. Mm-hmm. And so now you can connect with people all over the world. Yeah. Which means technology that's being created in other countries that are light years ahead of us. You can start to meet those individuals and start to think about what's coming next, what you can help, how you can be a part of that. Because I tell you all the time, I used to think when like Ashton Kutcher was so active, I was like, yo, he just pop up with something every now and then. But then when he was on, I think Colbert one night talking about how many tech companies he had bought into, I was like, what in the world? Yeah. But he attends conferences to learn more about tech. Sure. So those are definitely things to pay attention to, I should say.
Thank you for that little story. I mean, hopefully some people will learn about what's going on behind closed doors, and and hopefully we'll either open the doors ourselves or start creating our own opportunities.
Like James Brown said, we don't need you to open the door for us. Just open the door. We'll get it ourselves.
You love saying that.
I love that. Because I didn't know he actually sang a whole song about it.
Well, let's take a peek behind what's these business highlights you have. I'm excited to see what new businesses we can discuss, and because there's always something creative and something funky, fresh that comes to the table. So I really like a lot of the companies that are out there, and it's sad that we just never heard of them. So I'm glad that we're doing this. I learned a lot.
Some of the companies that we're highlighting today fit perfectly into these late summer months, going into Labor Day. And one that we're starting with is B with an underline, space, Fine, FYNE. It's a swimwear line, which was started by a Nigerian-American, Buki Ade, who started her line after seeing a lack of representation of African designers in swimwear. So for those of you who are taking the risk and going to the beach, socially distancing with your mask on, and you want to take a run in the water,
maybe,
or maybe you just want to wear. I mean,
wear
our
it around
apartment's
the
hot.
crib,
Maybe you just
yeah.
want to wear your
Yeah.
bathing suit around the apartment for your man.
Or you know, you got to get your.
Or maybe you just want to wear your bathing suit around the apartment.
I was gonna say you got to get your IG litty. You know what I mean? Take pictures in your apartment wearing your bathing suit.
No.
Get those likes up, ladies.
This is awful. Liberté, which is actually spelled with an E instead of a Y, and the E has an accent aigu at the end, so it's actually the French version of Liberté. It was started by former lingerie model and 32E bra shopper, Amber Tolliver. Liberté is a premium lingerie brand centered around thoughtfully constructed garments and undergarments. According to a survey conducted in 2017, 80% of women wear the wrong size bra. I'm definitely one of those who's done that. Of those women, 70% wore bras that were too small, while 10% wore bras that were too big. I'm more on the too big side, but that definitely is, bra measuring is one of those necessities that is annoying. It's almost like getting your vitals at the doctor.
Yeah.
You're like, I gotta get my weight done. I gotta get my blood pressure taken.
I don't know. I'm kind of out on. You're on the island on this one, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, my cup size is pretty straightforward. So,
But I definitely love this because this company also specializes in bra measurements, and they have very beautiful garments for women of all sizes. But also, if you're of a larger cup size, they definitely have garments that do fit larger cup sizes. So I was really taken by this and wanted to share this brand because I know that sometimes we just go for something that is beautiful and sexy for that special occasion, or we just go for something we can throw on to go to work and we're not thinking about it. And later in life, you have back problems and sagging breasts. So this is definitely something to take care of at any age.
got you.
The Sip Society. Now, for those of you that like a little sip, I know that we all like to have our little drink every now and then. And right now, being inside a restaurant or even outdoors at a restaurant is taking a risk with the spike in COVID cases, with the actual latest surge in COVID cases in nearly 40 states. So you can have your virtual happy hour with your friends over Zoom, courtesy of the Sip Society.
Okay.
And it was started by co-founders Erica Davis and Catherine Carter. And it's a champagne and sparkling wine bottle membership service that offers members 2 to 3 mini bottles in beautiful, elegant packaging, which comes straight to your door, where you can discover new houses of wine and new regions at an affordable price. And when you find your favorite, members receive full-sized bottle credits so you can stock up on your new favorite wines. You earn $5 for every 2 boxes you subscribe to, and annual subscribers are given an additional bonus of $10 at the end of the year, and credits never expire.
That's kind of fire. I like that. I like that. It's a membership service that offers mini bottles, and then as you accrue tokens, points, or whatever, you get a full-size bottle. I really like that idea. You know, there's a lot of potential in that one.
A lot of potential. I mean, it's almost like a classier mini bar. Like you have mini bars where they go to various liquor stores and wine stores and pick up wines to deliver to your door. But this is classier. Like it comes in a beautiful pink box and
I mean, there's a lot of ideas I got with that, something like that. You know, you can always do like a text, texting a mass text app or whatever, and text people like the bottle of the month, and you could do a lot of fun things to keep your audience engaged and stuff like that. I like ideas like that when you sign up for memberships, and because it really makes it feel personalized that you're getting this bottle delivered straight to your house. So
and a lot of wine stores actually do have their services that are set up like that, and a lot of them actually started to switch to those either pre-pandemic or during the pandemic in order to still maintain customers. So I actually really like the fact that you're seeing this, because a lot of people were doing paint and sips virtually and happy hours virtually during the pandemic, and this way you have your wines delivered.
I like the brand too, like the whole, the lifestyle of it that they're offering, not just, oh, we're sending you some liquor like a liquor store. Like they sending you almost a lifestyle to your door. So kudos to y'all.
Yes, so for you wine connoisseurs and champagne connoisseurs, this is the service for
Sip
you.
away.
424 Boutique. It's an online clothing store created for every woman, shaped in different sizes. It's a fashion-forward, affordable online boutique with something for all occasions, such as work, evenings out, and vacationing.
All right.
Now, for those people that love Forever 21 and H&M, this is your alternative.
All right, cool.
They have similar styles that are on trend that you can find at affordable prices. So next time you think about going to Forever 21 or H&M, say, you know what? I think I'm going to go online and shop at 424.
Cool.
Label by 3. They're handcrafted garments made in Phoenix, Arizona. Shout out to my friend Heather Jasper, who's in Phoenix right now. It is a focus on minimalism, sustainability, and versatility. All materials are hand-picked and sourced by the owners here in the U.S., and their packaging is made from 100% post-consumer and post-industrial content that is fully recyclable, biodegradable, and also made in the U.S. 3 women of color own this business, which is why it's labeled by 3.
I figured that's what it was. That's cool. I like that. All right. Three strong women out there doing something miraculous, and it's good for the environment. Good
Exactly.
for going green. I like companies that have forward thinking, and you know, that's something that I think a lot of black companies I've noticed haven't always been forward thinking, and it's always nice and refreshing to hear companies. Actually, almost all these companies I feel are forward thinking, so that's really great.
I do too. That's one of the things I liked about all the ones that we spoke about today. They all have a unique twist to them. You don't learn of many black swimwear lines. There are other ones, of course, on the list that we can talk about later. But another thing too, going to the websites of 424 and Label by 3, I saw a lot of nice, light, fun, easy summer wear. So for those that are back out in their offices, particularly here in the city now that we're in phase 4, and those who even are doing Zoom meetings at home that want to wear that top, you know, not the same top that you're wearing every day around the house, but want to wear something special that your coworkers can see while you're in those Zoom meetings, or other people that you're connecting with in those Zoom meetings. You can definitely have, or Google meetings, whatever way you use, that you're definitely, you know, just still dressed to impress, I should say. And sometimes you just want to put something on to feel nice, not in the same thing you're wearing all day long in the house.
Yeah. I like wearing sweats all day long, so I'm cool with that. But anyway, is that it? That's our 5 beautiful highlighted companies right there. I'm excited to share this with people because, you know, if we can just help them even get one extra customer, you know, it's just one step closer to equality in business and creating generational wealth within our community. So I'm super excited.
Amen.
So you know, we always want to, you know, elevate, but we also don't want to forget the lost people who've been in this journey of being black in America. And, you know, as wonderful as it is, sometimes it can be very tragic. So I know you have someone you want to share with us that has who is no longer with us. So please.
Today we're lifting the life of Kamani Gray. Kamani was killed in front of his best friend's house after a birthday party. Police said Gray was with a group of young men that night, standing in front of a home at East 52nd Street, which is in the Flatbush area of Brooklyn. When officers from the Brooklyn South Anti-Crime Patrol Unit approached, when the officers started to talk to the group, Gray began acting suspiciously, police said. Police also said at one point Gray grabbed for something in his waistband. The police said that Gray pulled out a gun and pointed it at the officers, according to police. When the plainclothes officers saw the gun, they both fired. Gray was pronounced dead at Kings County Hospital a short time later. Police said Gray was a gang member with several arrests to his name, but family members and neighbors and witnesses said he was not in a gang and did not have a gun. Some have even accused the officers, those who witnessed the shooting themselves, of planting the Rome's Industry .38 caliber revolver recovered at the scene, calling it a dropped gun. He was 16 years old at the time of the murder, which took place in March of 2013.
Damn. So young.
So young. I mean, and when you see the photograph of him, he looks like a baby.
Yeah.
I mean, not even 16, like a child. So,
I mean, that, first of all, that's in New York. So I'm from New York. So, and he's a young man. I'm a young man. He's not but so much younger than me. Well, about a decade younger maybe, right? But, you know, I'm going to say, obviously, there's two sides of the story. I'm going to go with the vast majority of witnesses that have no reason to lie, as opposed to cops who have a reason to lie and say that, it's a scary world where you are part of a unit, part of a collective where you can just commit a crime and then concoct a story. Even if the young man did have a gun, and by no means do I want to see any shootouts or anything like that, but there's probably was so many different ways they could have handled it. I mean, the story just sounds...
and I think according to witnesses, he ran, which a lot of young people run because they know that what could happen.
Yeah.
So Freddie Gray ran. Most black people are scared of the police.
Yeah.
So they don't want to stand around and wait for something to be planted.
Yep.
Because our young men at this day and age are told. I have a cousin, I remember he got pulled over, and my aunt told him, you really shouldn't have let him search your trunk. They could have put something in there. There's things you just have to be so aware of now, because they literally have cops in Baltimore that a detective was murdered who was going to testify against them for planting drugs on a scene. Yeah. So this happens.
Yep.
Guns can be planted. I mean, and this happens more in our community.
Yeah, than any other community at any other time.
And they cuffed him as he died. So it's
what is it with these cops and like cuffing people who are bleeding out and kicking them while they're dying? What is the thing with like after you shoot somebody, what are you going to do? This is just, their value for human life is
our human life.
Our human life it feels like it doesn't exist. So,
And the judge said that it was okay for them to cuff him.
I mean, of course it is okay for you know what I mean? Like of course the cuff. I mean, if like I always say, if it wasn't a black kid and you put any other race in there, it's a different story. It's a mass media coverage.
They get taken to Burger King.
Well, that's a whole different story. So, prayers to the family. I mean, this is very tragic, and I hate hearing anything like this. So hopefully,
7 years ago, and cops are still walking around,
living their best lives. Probably out here at the protests, probably patrolling the protests right now. More than likely. So that's the irony that there's the cops that have murdered young men who are out here probably with their hand on their hip, waiting for a protester to act crazy so they have any reason. Or maybe they're in a car and they'll drive over some protesters. You never know who the cops will be. That's why like there has to be something done, because once they do it once, who's to say that they won't do it again? Who's to say that things will change within this cop? So, you just have this fear that something like this can, and well, obviously we know 2013, 2014, Eric Garner happened, So, you
this
fast
is around
forward.
the same time. And they're plainclothes officers. It's always, and that they dismantled the plainclothes unit here in New York, which they lost. They got their mind with that too.
Yeah.
But they're doing it because you're just killing people.
Absolutely.
Same area, I guess near the same area, right? Of Chantel Davis?
Yes. Yeah. That one was close to Chantel Davis, Yep. So, let's just work hard at, get in, like you said, get into voting, get into like fighting back on policies. That does not mean I don't want to put anybody's lives in danger. I don't want anybody throwing rocks and stuff like that and antagonizing cops and anything like that.
Why you had to bring up the Freddie Gray riots?
What?
They was throwing rocks at the cops.
I wasn't even, that was well, you see, now if you throw a rock, you see what's happening in Portland. Like, you can't even peacefully protest and they may send a militia out after you. So if you throw rocks, who knows what they'll do to you. So let's just be safe, but let's fight the policies. Let's be knowledgeable. Let's educate. Let's create generational wealth. Let's, create opportunities for ourselves to, to really bond together and be able to have the leverage to fight against these bigotries that are in America. So,
Well said, brother.
Right on.
Power to the people.
Oh, Lord. All right. Can you take us on out of here, Shayla, please?
We want to thank you guys for joining us for another Make It Your Business Daily. We always appreciate you spending your most precious asset with us, which is your time. We're your host, Shayla Hepburn, Terrell Patterson.
Yes. Check us out on, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. If you like watching us, I'm a handsome guy. So if you're listening to this and you don't see me, you're missing out. It's half the fun. It's like, I don't even know what it's like. It's like
That's why you can't even.
It's like the Kool-Aid with no sugar. It's like the.
It's all the time.
It's like
so ridiculous.
Anyway, thank you for listening. Please rate and review us if you have the opportunity to, because we love hearing feedback, and we would like to make whatever necessary adjustments to bring you a better quality entertainment. If you have any topics or any things that you would like to discuss, we're always open. You can always reach us out at Rel Tell Stories, and that's RELLTELSTORIES. Whew, that's a mouthful. On Instagram and on Twitter, and Shay No Story, that's SHAYNOW KNOWSSTORY.
It's a should be. It's a should be. Why is it sharing? Why is Tell Story sharing an S?
On Twitter and on Instagram, and you can also find us on YouTube. You can just look up Make It Your Business Daily or Shayla Hepburn's under her profile, and that is it. Oh, we will be having a little surprise for y'all in the form of jewelry, but we will keep you posted on that. Till next time.
Peace.
Oh, I forgot this is a podcast, and I threw up a peace sign.
Oh,
sorry. Peace.
Peace.